Hi and welcome. So in this experiment we are going to see how to disassembly and assembly a computer system. So we know that a computer system or a personal computer that may consist of CPU, monitor, keyboard and mouse. These are all the very important and essential parts of a personal computer. And if you are working with any audio files, you need a speaker and headphones and microphones. So if it is necessary, we can add. If you want to print something, you can able to add a printer also. This is a important parts of a personal computer. More specifically, if you are taking this particular part, we will call it as CPU. Actually, this is it is something called as system box or cabinet, right? So this entire box consists of one particular green color board is called as motherboard, right? So this is so called motherboard. Within the motherboard itself there will be a very important part, the entire the brain of this entire system, so called processor. Actually the processor is nothing but central processing unit, CPU, right? So the entire unit is something called system box or cabinet. So we should call this particular IC as a CPU, right? So we can the hard disk drive, the storage device is there, right? So this is storage device, this is CD drive, this is hard disk drive, and this is the power supply unit, right? So we'll call it as SMPS, switched mode power supply, or PSU in short, that is power supply unit, right? So these are all the graphical cards and RAM and other things. So this is the parts of a cabinet, right? So more specifically, if you are taking a motherboard, that will be looking like this. So internal part of a motherboard, so here the CPU is available. So within the socket it is the CPU is getting fixed, and there are several slots is there. We will call it as PCI, that is peripheral component interconnect. So these are all the IO ports. IO ports stands for input and output ports, that is audio jacks and USB cables, USB ports and LAN ports. These are all called as IO ports. And this is the slot for RAM, right? So this is the connector for SATA, that is SATA means it is a cable coming from the hard disk drive, right? So this is the CMOS battery. Okay, so these are all the very important. And then this is one more thing, this is a chipset, right? So there are two different memories as available in motherboard. One is RAM, another one is, there are three memories actually. So within the motherboard itself we will connect the RAM here, and already the inbuilt chipset is there, right? We will connect the hard disk drive here. Our files and other things, entire OS operating system is actually stored in the hard disk drive, that already we know, right? So that is the memory called secondary memory. Primary memory is nothing but the RAM and the chipsets, right? So RAM is actually storing the temporary data, that is the CPU is processing some numerical data. So those data are actually temporarily stored in the memory called RAM. So chipset is also assisting the CPU by means of connecting all the IO ports. So it will store all the memory, it will store all the addresses of the IO ports like audio, USB ports and LAN ports, and it will be an intermediate memory storage unit for between CPU and the RAM. So these are all the very important parts of a computer system. Okay, we will go and take a computer system, and we will investigate what are the parts of a computer system. So this is a cabinet, right? So this is a power supply button for this cabinet, and these are all the IO ports, right? So this is a USB port. There is a provision for adding one more USB port. This is a USB port, and this is audio jacks, and this is a reset button, right? So this is an entire cabinet structure, and back side of it is actually already damaged piece, right? So this is a SMPS unit. This silver color portion is SMPS, and this is a connector for SMPS, and power supply unit. And this is the PS by 2 connector. Old type of mouses and keyboards are having these kind of connectors, and this is a VGA port, and this is a printer port, parallel port, and this is HDMI port, and these 1 2 3 4 5 6, these are all the USB ports, and this is LAN port, and these are all the audio ports, right? Okay, if you want to disassembly the entire cabinet, you need to unscrew these ports. Okay, already it is unscrewed, right? So if you want to open this cabinet, it's very easy to open like this. Okay, and also it is having a DC fan like this. Okay, so in order to cooling the entire cabinet, there is a connector is available, right? So it is already getting removed. Okay, so now the entire CPU, inside the CPU, you can able to see the internal components like this. So this is the connector, okay, where only the CPU, I mean the cooling fan, can able to connect with this connector only, right? So okay, so this is SMPS unit, so we will call it as power supply unit. Okay, power supply. So for the entire cabinet, the power is actually supplied by this unit only. Okay, so we are giving power supply from the from our mains, right? So with the help of this connector, we are supplying the power to this particular unit. This unit is actually having a transformer and other some power electronics circuitries is there. So this is actually providing these different levels of output, like 3.3 volt, 5 volt, and 12 volt, minus 12 volt, so plus 5 volt DC. Likewise, the different varieties of power supplies are given by this single unit, and these power supplies are actually fed into this entire motherboard, right? So the entire motherboard is getting power supply with the help of this 24 pin connector, right? Power connector that is comes out from this power supply unit. And also especially for the CPU alone, this is the actually the CPU, right? So I will show the CPU later. So this is the power supply pin for the IC Intel CPU itself. It is in the need of a separate power supply, so it is given by here. And there is a power supply unit that is comes out from the SMPS, and it is given here, and also some amount of power and power lines are going to this part. This is what we are called as the hard disk drive, right? So this is hard disk drive, and this is a hard disk drive data cable is there, right? So you can able to see this black color data cable, right? So this data cable is called as SATA, right? So this SATA cable is coming out from the hard disk drive, and it is connected over here in the motherboard itself. It is connected over here. This is a SATA cable, right? You can able to see this. This is the port structure of a data SATA cable, right? This is SATA cable. So we'll connect the SATA here. There is a provision for adding one more hard disk drive also. So you can able to add one more hard disk drive, and that SATA cable can be able to connect to this port, right? And this is a very important part, like CPU, right? So I will tell the parts first. This is cooling fan for the CPU. Underneath the cooling fan, there is a special kind of processor who is having a special place, like CPU socket is there. So this is the processor, right? So he will immediately cool. Okay, so he will he is doing all the functions of the entire cabinet. So he is having its separate cooling fan, and this is RAM slot. Okay, there are two slots is there. You can able to see there are two slots, slot number 1 and slot number 2. Okay, slot number 2 is there. Okay, right? So once I remove the RAM, you can able to see the two slots parallelly, and these are all the PCA cards. You can able to see this is the PCA cards, peripheral component interconnect. You can able to add graphics card, okay, and network card if you are going to work with some graphics related works, or if you want to play graphical games, you need a GPU unit, right? This system doesn't have any GPU card, and if you want to work with GPU card, I mean if you want to add GPUs, you can able to add in this slot. Slot is nothing but a connector, that's all. And this is a what we are called as heatsink. Underneath the heatsink there is a chipset is available, right? This is also a chipset, and CPU, RAM, and connecting PCI slots. Okay, hard disk is connected through SATA cable, and these are all the points, I mean the ports whatever we seen here, right? So the HDMI port and USB ports and audio jacks, these are all the parts where we are connecting our IO devices, right? So there is there is a interconnectivity. All the IO ports are connected via the chipset and then the processor. Actually, the processor is the only responsible person to access all the IO devices, but it is how it is accessing. It is accessing through the chipset only, right? Then these are all the some connectivities are going there. Yeah, we are having audio jacks here also on the top of the cabinet. Also the audio cables and USB cables are there. So from the cables, from the ports itself, a separate cable is coming out and it is getting connected to that motherboard, right? Let me see the cabin and the CPU. Okay, we will carefully remove the heatsink. This is so-called heatsink. This aluminum fins, we'll call it as aluminum fins. Okay, so this is aluminum fins and this is a DC fan. Okay, so exclusively for the CPU we are having a fan. Okay, so this is the CPU socket. We'll take out the lever, right, automatically. Yeah, so automatically the socket is getting opened. Now you can able to see the processor. Yeah, wait, yeah, I think you can able to see, right? The processor is nothing but wait, yeah, Intel Core i5 3.00 gigahertz frequency, operating frequency, right? So this is the processor called, he is the hero of the entire system, right? So he will be placed at the same position, right? Okay, it's fine. Now the socket is getting closed. Okay, yeah, wait a minute. Okay, fine. Socket is getting closed, and there is a cooling fan is there, right? So just mount the cooling fan and just lock the screws. Okay, that's all. Is a CPU, right? And then this is called as RAM. Okay, I will just, you need to pull off this lever back, and then you can able to just pull off this comb like structure. This is so called RAM. Okay, so you can see the spec of this. Sorry, I will autofocus this region. Yeah, this is spec of this particular RAM. This is DDR4 8GB RAM. You can able to see some duct over here. Okay, there are two slots. You can able to see there are two slots. Okay, this is expandable up to 32GB. This system is actually having the features of 32GB RAM. So we can able to add like this. Okay, so we need to connect the RAM by this way, right? So one edge has to fix first of all. Okay, actually I'm fixing this end, right? I'm fixing this end. Okay, so this end, this side, and another end is supposed to be in this side. Then you need to just plug it. Automatically this lever will be back off, right? Then here also one more slot is there, right? So called, this is the internal parts of the computer system, right? So carefully we need to mount the system, and the SATA cable has to be connected, and this is very important, CMOS battery. Okay, this is the CMOS battery thing, right? So this CMOS battery is actually maintaining the time and everything. So entire BIOS setting is actually maintained by means of the power supply coming out from the battery itself, right? So this is the internal parts of the computer system. This is the way you have to assemble as well as disassemble the system. Thank you.